Welcome to podcasts recorded live at the Center for Spiritual Living in Portland, Oregon. We have many programs, classes, and workshops developed just for our online audience. To find out more, go to our website at cslportland.org and look under the Online tab. Our mission is to open hearts, ignite minds, and make a difference. If you'd like to support our center and its video podcasts, you can donate online at cslportland.org/donate. Allow us to become part of your extended spiritual community. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are most welcome at the Center for Spiritual Living.
Good morning. Let's take a nice deep breath in. As we bring our awareness to this moment right here, right now, and we sing together and go into meditation.
And it is inside that innermost sanctum of our heart where we find spirit. That largest container of love, that largest container of peace. It is joy, it is abundance. It is our heart's desire. This is spirit, this is God. And because it is everywhere present, I know there's no place where God is not. It is in the heart of every person. It is in the affairs of the world. Despite sometimes appearances to the contrary, God is truly everywhere. I know that means me. I know it means that my life is part of God's life, that God's love is for me to feel and to share and to understand. And so for this day, I put love on my altar. I recognize that this world runs on love, that as we see through the eyes of love, anything unlike it is dispersed. Anything that looks like discord or lack is dispersed. Anything contrary to this overwhelming urge to love and to share, to live in harmony and peace, anything unlike that fades even as the sun disperses the fog on a fall morning. There is only God. And so for this week, I claim that love, that majesty, that power is at full force in all of our lives, shining forth as the love that we see in the eyes of our family and friends, shining forth as the peace that we see in our domestic relations, shining forth even to those areas of the world that seem oppressed or seem full of doubt or lack. Truly, love disperses anything unlike itself. And I claim this as my truth for this day and this week. And so as we go about our week, as we continue with this service in honor of Spirit, it is love that I see as and through. It is that perfection of Spirit as love that is my truth. And so I give great thanks for this. I give thanks for the ability to overlook the pain in the world, to deal with it, certainly, but to know it does not mean the truth of my being. And so in love, I release this prayer into that activity, into that action of the law itself, that law that responds to my thoughts, that senses my love, that sees my heart grow big enough to encompass it all. And so I let it be, and together we say, and so it is.
Welcome back from the silence. I'm happy to be singing some background vocals for Kristin and the band today. Beautiful song called Altar of Love by Miss Karen Drucker.
Walking through the season of dark and lonely change, where the world was on my shoulders and my faith was rearranged. I knew I'd never be given more than I could bear. The Spirit reassured me there was an answer to my prayer. If I lay it down, set it choice to stay in separation. Listen to that voice that beckons me to open and be grateful every day. Simply reminds me there can be another way. Lay it down.
Lay it down.
Set it free.
Set it free.
Let my heart rest and let it be. Lay it down.
Lay it down.
Set it free.
Set it free.
Lay it
Down on the altar of love. Love is all there is.
Oh, love is all there is.
Love will lead the way.
Oh, love will lead the way. Lay it down.
Lay it down.
Set it free.
Set it free.
Let my heart rest and let it be. Lay it down.
Lay it down.
Set it free.
Set it free.
Lay it down on the altar of love. Lay it down on the altar of love. Lay it down on the altar
Oh my gosh, what a talented music team we have. And they fooled me. I thought Kristin was going to be doing backup today. That was gorgeous. Thank you so much. I love being surprised. Welcome, everybody. As you know, this month we're talking about the idea of doing a judgment detox. And we're using Gabrielle Bernstein's book called Judgment Detox. And, you know, I usually do a bit of a recap to explain what we covered last week. And I think I'm going to do it through my joke this week. I hope you don't mind. So 2 guys are sitting in a bar. It's true. You've come to church and 2 guys are sitting in a bar watching the television. There's a news report about a man who's threatening to jump off a 5-story building unless the police arrange for him to get $200,000. Well, the first guy in the bar says to the other, I bet you $100 the fellow jumps, but he'll be unhurt. Well, the second guy takes the bet, and the fellow on TV ends up jumping, but at the last second, his fall is broken by an awning. He actually gets up, he's unhurt. Well, the loser hands over the $100 bet, but the winner gives it back, saying that he had already seen the guy jump on an earlier news flash. Sorry, man, says the winner. It would be cheating if I took the money. The loser says, well, I don't know. I saw the news flash earlier, too. I just didn't think he would jump again. Okay, so you're wondering how this is a recap of last week. I know you are. Well, last week we talked about 3 different forms of judgment. So let me explain. You just heard my sort of lame joke. And if you thought the joke was funny, or you just even didn't think it was funny, but the joke just stood on its own merits, you did a judgment call, right? You said, well, it's funny, or it's not funny. No big deal. Larry has his good days and his bad days. Some of you are saying joke-wise. No harm and no foul. Maybe next week's will be better. Or maybe you love the joke. Anyway, that is a judgment just based on your preferences, whether you thought the joke was funny enough. Now, some of you out there, though, actually did a little bit of analysis on the joke. You passed it against what I would say is your sense of right and wrong, your sense of values. And some of you may have thought the joke wasn't funny because it tended to belittle someone who was on the naive side. And maybe you don't personally like jokes that tend to have someone as the butt of the joke. But there might be others out there that were so offended in prior years of those dumb blonde jokes that you love this one because it was a guy and not even a blonde guy, right? So that would be also a judgment that you called upon, whether you like the joke or not. And in this case, based on your value system. I really didn't like that joke because it kind of moved against my sense of values of depreciating someone. Or you really liked it because it for once dispelled that idea of the dumb blonde. Okay, but there's also a third form of judgment that we talked about last week. And what I know is that my podcast, especially my audio podcast, goes out to about 6,000 people every week. And what I know is out there somewhere is a person who just heard that joke and said, someone needs to stop Reverend Larry from ever telling another joke. That was so foul. That was so stinky. He's so outrageous. Someone needs to restrain him. That would be the third form of judgment, where not only do you just like or not like something, but you begin to actually and actively have judgment against the person in terms of separating yourself from them and trying to portray them in a lesser position where you're in a higher position. So that's the form of judgment in particular that Gabrielle Bernstein says is troublesome, that can get us in trouble. And it's really the form of all kinds of racism, of categorizing some people as better than other people, making outrageous claims of judgment, when really it's just your own preferences and your own values. And so you're apt to say someone is worthless when in reality it's your own judgments, it's your own ideas that simply you favor. It doesn't necessarily have to make someone else wrong. Well, this week we're going to be covering some more of what she calls her 6-step judgment detox. Last week we had the first step, which was simply to notice when we are in judgment of other people. To simply notice if I'm judging someone, which of those 3 styles of judgment in it. If I'm just expressing my preference, no big deal. If I'm making a judgment based on the values that I have, it's probably a good thing. It's just a good discernment that you have. But if you're elevating yourself and gossiping about other people as though they are inferior, then you're in that third form of judgment. And that's the form that we're wanting to take a look at. So today we're going to cover 2 more of the steps of her judgment detox. Where I want to start, though, is by asking a question. Do we know where judgment comes from? Have you ever really thought about that? Where does that third form of judgment come from? And I have an idea that it comes from the most ancient of times. In the dawn of humanity, there was a time when people who weren't like you typically were dangerous, right? It was the tribe that was in the other part of the country. It was the people down the way that might come and steal some of what you have. And so there was, I think, perhaps an appropriate fear of people who were not like you. And often there would be skirmishes and tribal warfare over scarce resources and such. And so there was that fear of the other, there was that judgment of things that were not like you, and it actually perhaps had a benefit. It was to keep your tribe, your family, the people close to you safe. But let's fast forward a few 100,000 years, right? Do we need to have that level of systemic judgment at work in the world? Does it serve a purpose today? And I would say not. I would say there's really no reason to, from the get-go, fear other people or judge other people. Now, don't get me wrong, when one-on-one we begin interacting with other people, we may have cause to keep ourselves safe. We may have discernments that we want for our own value system that are important. But judging on appearances, judging people that you haven't even met, judging people that you only know peripherally and you don't know what's going on in their lives, that actually comes from a place of your own woundedness. And I want to think about this for a minute because, you know, we're talking about putting love on the altar today, and you might think in this area of judgment that that means I'm going to try to love the person that I've been judging poorly. I have a little surprise for you. We need to put love on the altar to heal our own selves. It's much less about our effect on other people through our judgment as it is on our effect on our own heart, our own minds. Judgment is a poison, but it's a poison for us primarily. I want to use an example because I know this is perhaps a concept that you're not familiar with, and I have kind of a little bit of a funny story. So my partner and I, when we were first getting together, we had decided if really we were going to make a long-term loving commitment to each other, that it would be better if we found a house on our own rather than me living in his house or he living in my house. We decided, no, really the best thing to do would be to sell both of our houses and find one that was sort of neutral ground. Do you know what I mean? So we could start fresh. And so we searched quite a bit and finally found a lovely home in Southeast Portland. And it was brand new. It was amazing. It was new construction. It was within our budget. Really, it was one of those things where you just swear everything is going your way. So we're making an offer and we have a home inspection, and oh my gosh, it's a brand new home, and yet the inspector found hundreds of small and a couple not so small things wrong with our brand new house. And we got the idea, both of us actually, that the builder was just not a good builder. And oh my word, the judgments that we had about these people we had never met, right? Because we'd never met the builder or the workers or the various contracting agencies that had come to do the sidewalks and do the roof and all the different pieces of it. And yet in our mind there was this force that we labeled the builder as though one guy had built the house, right? And we pictured just how evil he was to do all these things, to buy that window that wasn't true and we couldn't open, to have laid the sewer down under the driveway, and before it even got used, it was plugged up, right? And the list just went on, and our judgment of that company, oh my gosh. But you know where that judgment came from? Because we actually, at the time, I remember, analyzed it. We got so worked up one day, we were going to drive down to the office of that building company and like camp out, like some kind of a formal protest. And in our mind, we were doing, boycotts on Yelp and all kinds of craziness because we felt so wronged. And I remember Daniel's father had given us a call. And he said, you know what? That's super common, actually. You put together a new house on today's kind of scale, and there will be all kinds of things wrong. Aren't they going to fix it? And we were kind of stunned. Oh, you mean this is to be expected and they just fix it and all is fine? We had been in judgment over these people, not even realizing that it was kind of par for the course, and that the home came with a several-year warranty, and that they would just come out and fix things. And later in life, when I remember thinking about this time, what I remember was it was triggering in my own self times when I had been cheated in the past. You see, this wasn't really a problem with the builder. It was a problem in my own heart. It was triggering. It was bringing up remembrances of time in the past when I had made purchases and people in some way or other had cheated me. And do you see what I was doing? I was judging someone else based on my own woundedness. Think about this for a moment. When was the last time that you judged someone harshly? It may have been someone that you worked with. It may have been a family member that seemed to be embarking upon the wrong path. It may have been a spouse that did something contrary to your sense of values. But did you approach it as, well, that was just their choice, I can accept that? Or did you need to make it about being right or wrong, and you, of course, in the right position, and the other person in the wrong position? Because if that's true, if you found yourself wanting to be right at all expense, if you found yourself elevating your own opinion and putting down someone else's opinion, even viewing them as stupid or negligent or some other negative attachment to that person, you're in that third form of judgment. And I would suggest, if you look inwardly, there will be some kind of an inner wound in you. That other person could be said to have pushed your buttons. Are you familiar with that idea of having your buttons pressed, right? Well, the other person may have pressed it, but guess who installed it, my friends, right? It's your button. Someone else pressed it, but there's something in you that became offended. There was something in you that caused this not just to be a preference. Well, he does it that way, she does it that way, I like to do it my way. It went from there being, how stupid could she be? Or how foolish could he have been? It went from simply a discernment about what you like or what you don't like, whether you thought my joke was funny or whether you thought my joke wasn't funny, and it turned into something a little darker, a little more sinister. So how do we begin working on those kinds of judgments? Because really there's something that holds you back. When you're in judgment of someone else, when you're holding a resentment and a negative opinion of someone else, who suffers? Do you think it's the other person? Well, sometimes I suppose it is. If you're shunning them, if you're treating them badly, it does affect the other person. But whose heart is heavy? Who's being held back from being able to express themselves fully and see the possibilities of the relationship or the possibilities of the situation? When at all costs you want to be right and victorious, often the situation itself simply suffers. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Well, the talk today is called Put Love on the Offer, and we did have a wonderful song by Drucker as part of the service today. And that's what I would ask you to do. And in fact, that's what Gabrielle Bernstein would ask you to do. And the love that you're putting on the altar is love for yourself primarily. It's letting go of those earlier wounds. In the case of my partner and I in our new house, we had to let go of some of those woundednesses of experience where people had cheated us. We needed to be able to let that go and see this new experience of buying a new house for what it is, on its own merits. Through the eye of discernment, certainly through our values, but very quickly we learned that the builder was more than willing, more than able, and actually very quick about fixing all those things. In fact, the builder was depending on that inspection to know what to fix. It was part of the process, and here we were so fast to condemn and judge. It took us to really think about, wait a minute, this is pushing our buttons, those buttons that we installed, perhaps to keep ourselves safe from people who might sell us something that wasn't of a high quality. But that button did not need to be there in this case. we could evaluate this builder, this group of fine craftspeople, on their own merits, right? So what are the next few steps in this judgment detox? I'd like to cover 2 of them today. Step 2 is to honor the wound. It's actually to notice in yourself why you're judging. What's up for me? What of my buttons is being pressed that's causing me to come out with such level of judgment? Is it perhaps the way I was treated as a child, and something right now is reminding me of that? Is it a person in my past that maybe did me wrong or treated me poorly, and this new person in my life is reminding me of that? Is it something that happened and I find myself in a similar position, and so that button gets pressed and oh my, the judgments fly? But are they appropriate for now, or were they just appropriate for in the past? We have that choice of putting our own woundedness on that altar and healing it truly with love. Love for ourselves. Love for that desire to move forward in life, to open our heart and be able to take in more love. What I do know is love and judgment are not compatible. And if you are judging either yourself or someone else, you have just put love out the window. And if you don't believe me, next time you find yourself loving, try to picture judgment in the middle of it. Or if you find yourself judging someone, try to just instantly open your heart to them. I tell you, it will be very difficult. And so when we're judging, we're by definition saying love is not important here. And I never want that to be the description of me. And so when I find myself in judgment, step 2 of the detox, well, if you'll remember, step 1 is just to notice it. You got to notice it first. Step 2 is to notice then the source of it. What is it in me? How was my button pressed? And to take ownership for that button. To put love on the altar to begin healing that woundedness in me. So we honor the wound, we put love on the altar, and in step 3, Gabrielle Bernstein does something very interesting. Up until this part of the book, you might think it was a pretty secular book. You probably would say, well, spirituality is in there, but she doesn't necessarily mention the God word. In chapter 3, her advice, the 3rd step of detoxing, is actually prayer. And she offers up a few prayers that I would like to share for you. She offers up 3 short prayers as step 3 of detoxing our judgment. The first one is a prayer of surrender, and it's very short, and it assumes that you're in judgment of some one person who maybe you feel is not acting appropriately, or someone who has pressed your button. And she says this prayer: "Dear inner guide, I need help with my judgment towards," and then you fill in the name. So in my case, it would be, "Dear inner guide, I need help with my judgment towards the Palazzo Company." They were the company that built our house. And then the prayer goes on, "I'm ready to surrender this issue now. I welcome in the presence of love to guide me back to truth and to grace. I'm ready to release this judgment and see through the eyes of love." So this is what she calls as a prayer for surrender. I'm literally surrendering my judgment. I'm surrendering that woundedness that I've had in the past over this issue. I'm putting it on the altar of love. I'm willing to surrender. The second prayer that she talks about, she calls a prayer of acceptance. Acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, or thing, some situation, some fact in my life unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that this person, place, or thing is being exactly the way it's supposed to be. So it is a prayer of acceptance. Some of you familiar with 12-step programs might want to substitute the serenity prayer, right? It's that idea that in order to find serenity, I have to accept my life as it is right now. Not that it won't change, not that I can't improve upon it, not that the world will not become better for me when my outlook changes, when I begin seeing through the eyes of love, but I do have to accept my life right now. The third prayer really is more of an affirmation, and this she suggests that we take along with us throughout the day. And simply when we notice that we're in judgment, it's a prayer to forgive your own thoughts. And it goes like this: I forgive my thought, and I choose again. It's the easiest one of all, right? I forgive so picture yourself. You've just noticed someone cutting you off in the freeway, and you have this most harsh judgment. What a ... Who gave this ... a driver's license, right? One of those completely outrageous and brutal judgments, and instead you say to yourself, I forgive this thought, and I choose to think again from the eyes of love. So those are the three prayers that she suggests as step 3 of her judgment detox. So let's do a quick review of what we've got going today. First of all, we're on step 3 of her judgment detox. The 3 steps were first just to notice when we are in judgment. And if we're judging, which of those 3, is it just a preference? Is it just a discernment? No big deal. Those are the kinds of judgments that we do every day that are just fine. They're not implying that someone else is in the wrong. They're just you stating what's right for you, which is totally appropriate. But the third form is that form of judgment that is a criticism of someone else. It's like gossip. It's like you needing to be on high and putting someone else in the position of being inferior or less than. That's the form of judgment that will always have a negative effect on you in the long run. It closes your heart. It limits your potential. You begin to see the world in such black and white and narrow terms. It's the source of things like racism and ageism and sexism, as you somehow elevate yourself as being superior and someone else or some group of people being inferior. This is the kind of judgment that we wish to end. And in the second step, after we've noticed that we're doing it, the second step then is to look within and see how our wound has indeed set up this button that was pressed. That our woundedness, we can actually analyze it, actually look towards it, and begin to heal it. And then the third step is that healing. That's putting it on the altar of love. It's perhaps going into prayer. Now, whether you want to use Gabrielle Bernstein's simple prayers or not really doesn't matter. But this idea of turning it over to God, this idea of prayerfully considering that you're willing to accept life as it is, or that you're willing to disperse that negative thought, that negative judgment in favor of something else. Whether it's a prayer of acceptance, whether it's a prayer of surrendering that issue over to Spirit, know that prayer truly makes a difference in your life. You're signaling your willingness to turn over something that truly has bothered you for a healing. I do have a couple quotes from the book that I want to cover today. The first one is with regards to this idea of being wounded. She says, we're all innocent, wounded children who have faced so many difficulties in our lives. This is true no matter your social status or your background. No one gets through this life without some kind of woundedness. And in fact, our wounds can help make us interesting, creative, unique even. But those same wounds also make us neurotic, defensive, and often very judgmental. When we have become brave enough to face our wounds, true healing begins. And so this is the quest of the judgment detox. It's not to heal other people's behaviors. In fact, I'll tell you a story. When I was in ministerial school down in California, we were very close to Yogananda's bookstore down there at the Self-Realization Fellowship. And one day on a break, often we would go to the Self-Realization Fellowship's beautiful garden there in Encinitas. And one day I wandered into the bookstore, and there were all kinds of Yogananda's publications, little volumes of wisdom. And one of them was titled, and I swear the book leapt off the shelf and flew into my hand, and it was entitled, How to Change Other People, right? And I think one of the employees there laughed because I think it was probably one of their best sellers. And so I bought the book, and in my motel room that night, after ministerial school was over that night, I got out the book, and it basically says, you can't. You know, in 100 pages, it said, you can't. And I bring that up because the healing that needs to happen from judgment isn't in other people. You don't need to change other people's behavior to be healed from judging. You simply need to heal what's gone on in your own heart, those old wounds, those old sufferings. When you come to accept them just for what they are and not something that you have to carry with you indefinitely, you'll notice the judgment simply fading through prayer, through just noticing what's going on, through putting love on the altar of your own heart. You'll begin to see that you don't need to judge others, and you also don't need to judge yourself. So I want to close today with some homework, another quote from Gabrielle Bernstein, and a prayer. First of all, the homework. I'm inviting you to implement all 3 steps that we've learned so far of the judgment detox. So continue noticing when you are judging someone in that negative, divisive way. When you're calling out someone for being an idiot or stupid or ugly or any of the pejorative terms that you might use, notice it. That's step 1. That's hopefully the easy step. The second step then is to look inwardly. How was my button pushed? Why is this heating me up? What is it about me that in particular takes an issue with what's going on here? And then the third step is to offer that up for a healing through prayer. Either a prayer of acceptance of the situation just as it is, no harm, no foul. They have the right to be the way they are, even as I have the right to be how I am. That might be a prayer of acceptance. It could be a prayer of surrender. I'm just turning this over to Spirit. For whatever reason, I'm still pissed off about this. There's still some anger in my heart, but I know on that altar of love, Spirit can help me. I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to surrender this one to Spirit. And then her final suggestion for prayer is just to notice the thought and say, I'll choose another one. I notice I'm being judging. I'm going to let that go. I'm going to choose another one. I'm going to put that on the altar of love. So the final quote from the book is how she ends this chapter explaining the third step in her detox. She says, the profound act of surrendering our past through prayer can help you see in our own holiness no matter what has happened. I make prayer the third step of the judgment detox because I want to give you a tool that will support you in all of your days. Begin to rely on prayer as your guide back to love. There is nothing more powerful than releasing the need to control and to rely on a power greater than your own. It can restore your thoughts and energy. When you loosen your grip and simply let Spirit lead the way, your life will become a happy dream. Let us pray. There is one power, one presence. There is only this one thing called love or God or Spirit. And upon that altar of love today, I put all of my troubles, all of my fears, all of my judgments. I know that in some days the struggle seems difficult for me to make sense of it all, and that is okay. I surrender my doubts. I surrender my fears. I surrender my judgment to that altar of love, to Spirit itself, and I expect and I accept a healing. As it is true for me, I know it can be true for everyone. Each of us has that ability to turn over our troubles to Spirit, to place our own heart on that altar of love and claim a healing. And so for today, I acknowledge that healing of judgment. I acknowledge that healing of past wounds. I acknowledge that healing that creates a world that works for everyone, that each one of us, as we surrender those things that darken our past, that have created pain for us in the present moment, as it's surrendered, as it's released, as it's gently dispersed, our dreams come alive, our hearts open, our ability to see the potential and the love, the joy and the peace of life itself begin to blossom. And for this I give such thanks. In gratitude, I release this prayer into the activity, into the action of the law itself. I let it be. And together we say, and so it is. Thank you so much for being here today. And I hope you'll enjoy another song from our blessed music team. Oh, wait. Totally forgot. Do you ever get wound up in what you're saying? I hope so. I hope I'm not alone in that. Now is our time of conscious giving. If you'd like to take out your gift or your tithe, whatever it is you've perhaps brought along today in your own homes. Maybe you're looking on the internet right now to give us an electronic gift at cslportland.org. Maybe you're sending us in a check. I want to thank you so much for your support. And if you'd like, you can repeat after me. Graciously I give from a place of love, knowing that as I give, so do I surely receive. And now I think it's time for our blessed singers and musicians to give us another song. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Reverend Larry. Whew. That's some good stuff. That's really a wonderful message today. So with that, I think it's time to dance it out. That's right. What do you think, band?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's time to stand up where you are, get up on your feet, and move around. And as we absorb all of this wonderful information, all of this beautiful life, yes.
Everybody get up on your feet, see the light in everybody you meet. Everybody get up on your feet, see the light in everybody you meet. Let us be reminded who we've come to be. We are love, we are one big family. Hey, hey, yeah, yeah. Hey, hey, yeah, yeah. Everybody get up on your feet, see the light in everybody you meet. Everybody get up on your feet, see the light in everybody you meet. Let us be reminded who we come to be. We are love, we are one big family. Hey, hey, yeah, yeah. Hey, 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 yeah, yeah. Let us make a joyful sound. Here we stand on holy ground. Let us make a joyful sound. Here we stand on holy ground. Let us make a joyful sound. Hey, 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 hey.
Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everybody you meet. Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everybody you meet. Let us be reminded of who we've come to be. We are love, we are one big family. Hey, hey, yeah, yeah. Hey, 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 yeah, yeah.
Let us make a joyful sound. We stand on holy ground. Let us make a joyful sound. Here we stand on holy ground. Let us make a joyful sound. Hey, 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 hey.
Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light. Everybody you meet.
Hey, hey,
Yeah, yeah. Hey, hey, hey. Yeah, yeah.
That was so fun. Thank you, guys. That was just so fun.
Love that. Gary Floyd, right?
Is it?
Yes,
Gary
New
Lynn
Thought
Floyd?
artist, yeah.
Awesome. Before we close today, I do want to just remind everybody of the prayer support we have to offer for you. You know, Gabrielle Bernstein, and I agree with her totally, this is about healing our hearts in so many ways. And if there's something going on in your life, someplace that perhaps your heart has closed up, if you feel not up to the task of healing that yourself, please lean on us. It would be our great pleasure to pray for you. You can do that in several ways. The easiest, of course, is at our website, cslportland.org. At the bottom of every page is a little link for making a prayer request. You simply go online, fill out the prayer request. It's automatically emailed out to 12 of our licensed practitioners, and it's their honor to pray for you throughout the week. So please take advantage of that. I know that right now a lot is going on in the world that could use a little healing, and I bet there might be something in your life that could take advantage of our prayer support. So bless you all for joining us today. I think we're going to have a fabulous closing song. As always, our music team, oh my gosh, just fabulous today. Thank you, house band. And thanks everyone for joining us on Facebook Live. See you next week.
I am love, I am loving, I am love. I am love, I am loving, I am love. It's the truth of who I am when I forget. Spirit reminds me again. I am love, I am loving, I am love. Oh, you are. You are love, you are loving, you are loved. That's right. You are love, you are loving, you are loved. It's the truth of who you are. Shine your light near, yes, near and far. You are love, you are loving, you are love. We are love, we are loving, we are love. We are love, we are loving,
If you happen to be in the Portland, Oregon area, we'd love to have you visit in person. The Portland Center for Spiritual Living is located at 6211 Northeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. We have inspirational services at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. every Sunday. We also have many programs, classes, and workshops developed just for our online audience. To find out more, go to our website at cslportland.org and look under the Online tab. We have a variety of content dedicated specifically for our online listeners. Our mission is to open hearts, ignite minds, and make a difference. If you'd like to support our center, you can donate online at cslportland.org/donate. Our website is also the place to learn more about what's going on at the center or to contact us. Allow us to become part of your extended spiritual community. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are most welcome at the Center for Spiritual Living.